Good morning, grandkids. Well, we are back today with The Lonely Worlds by Joseph Russell. And I'm so excited to get to the next chapter and see what happens. I'm really enjoying this book. I hope you guys are too. And before I start reading, Joseph, if you would correct me if I'm wrong, but this four-legged creature they met, is his name Ian or Lane? It looks like a capital I to me in this particular type, but it could be an L, but I don't think so. But it's I-A-I-N. It doesn't look like the usual spelling of Ian to me, but I could be wrong. I usually am. But if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please correct me. All right. Remember, we left them with asleep in the camp. But as they slept, the world far away across the multiverse, a shadow falls on a field of snow. From the shadow, voices can be heard chittering, screeching, screaming. Out of it, something emerges, something old and evil, and is so unfathomably hungry. It looks to the cold, unfeeling sky and howls. Darkness lies ahead of us, and behind us, our circle of firelight dwindles, and darkness is creeping in. So let's go on to the new chapter. Breakfast, Ian bellows, reminding me vaguely of Brian Blessed back at home. He trots into camp with almost irritating exuberance, and Haley and I take a few moments to properly establish ourselves in the realm of consciousness before poking our heads out of our respective tents. Ian proudly waves a head-sized bunch of bright purple berries, grinning toothfully. "They're good," he proclaims. "I've started the day with them every morning since I arrived here, and I do declare they are most filling. Relaxing, too." I stretch out a hand, not wanting to leave the comparative coziness of my tent, but he skips out of reach, cantering over to the ashes of the fire pit. "Gotta get up if you want your grub," he teases, and sticks out his tongue. "If there are any left," he adds, and shoves a fistful of them into his mouth. "First come, first serve," Haley shouts, and by the time I've pulled a shirt over my head, she's already dressed and out of her tent. I thought girls were supposed to take longer to get ready. I complain internally as I tighten my belt and leap out after her. Even if he were human, Ian would be a big man, and with his horse's body, he practically towers over us, Haley in particular. In fact, he's currently taking great delight as he dangles the berries just out of her reach. She jumps ineffectively for them a couple of times, and I burst out laughing as I saunter up beside her. "Guess I win," I say with a grin, and jump up to snatch a couple from Ian's hand. "Cheat," she pronounces me. I pop them in my mouth. God, they're good. The sweetest things I've tasted in forever. I roll the flavors around my tongue, savoring them, my eyes half closing in the sheer ecstasy of their deliciousness. "Go on," Ian's still teasing Haley. "You'll get them on the next jump." I open my eyes and grab another few while Haley jumps. She tries to snatch them from my hands, but I turn away and eat them before she can get to them. "Oh," I sigh. "Wow." You're really missing out, Haley. She humps and folds her arms and turns on her heel. I refuse to be teased, she says, and starts to walk away. I move to follow her, but a wave of dizziness hits me, and I stumble sideways. Haley and Ian stare down at me in alarm. Are you okay? Haley asks. I'm fine, I insist. What was that? I shake my head and try to smile, but the ground seems to shift beneath me, and suddenly I'm lying on the grass, my head spinning. Felix, Haley cries out, and she and Ian are above me again, but their voices seem very far away. I think I need sleep. They've always been fine for me, Ian protests as Haley and I glower at him. I came around in an hour, so it turns out. Whatever knockout chemical was in the berries doesn't seem as strong as it could be, and thank God it only knocked me out. With all due respect, Ian, I say patiently, you're about 3 times my size. He snorts, but he can't help looking a little embarrassed, his stubble-covered cheeks coloring faintly. I suppose that's a fair point. And a horse. That's racist. We dwell on the river world for several days, hunting the grouse and deer in the surrounding woodlands, and only Ian continues to touch the berries. Haley counts herself lucky that she never actually got to try them. Just in case, I wrap a few in a strip of cloth I was saving for potential repairs and push them down into the side of my pack. We never know what we'll face in our search for the voice from the cave, and somehow I get the feeling a knockout drug might come in handy. Maybe I could poison my knife with him. Hey, that's an idea. Maybe he could throw them out for something else to eat and poison them. Not now, though. We've got more important preparations to do. For once we know where we're going next. Well, they can't be sure. I thought that Ice World was where they was going next last time, but they didn't. For once we know where we're going next. Ian never visits the Fire World. He never visited the Fire World, but the voice told him the realm of ice was next, just the same as us. Oh, okay. So we fashion ourselves thick coats to prepare for the cold. Oh, that's good. With down from the grouse held together with deer skin. Fortunately, Ian's done it before, part of his trade back at Stallroth. We'd have struggled without Ian. Isn't that nice that something put him in their path just as they was going to really need him? He's been traveling as long as Haley. He left behind a wife and kids. Foals, I guess. Fritz was thinking. When, like me, he just slipped away without understanding how or why. He crafted what he needed from whatever he found. Centaurs are nomads, I soon learned, and more than used to living off the land. He'll be very helpful to keep around. On the 4th day by the river, all 3 of us feel the call at once. We all know how important it is to stay together, and we figure our best shot is to climb up onto Ian's back with our arms wrapped around each other. Since our clothes and packs always travel with us, perhaps physical contact will keep us together. On 3, Haley says. 1, I tighten my grip and clear my mind. 2, I focus, willing myself to stay with them. 3, the whole world turns white. I'm on the ground, alone. Oh no, oh no. Haley, I shout, but the freezing wind whips the sound away. Ian. I stagger to my feet, wrapping my improvised coat around me, clutching at the warmth that I brought with me when I moved on. The blizzard is blinding, a storm of icy whiteness that howls down from the white sky, batters against the white ground. There's no point keeping my eyes open. In fact, it's easier to close them, if only to shield myself from the stinging cold. I have to find Haley and Ian. I have to find shelter. We have to survive. I gotta take a cup of coffee. Some coffee. God, my throat's so dry. Excuse me and thank you. I stagger to my feet. Oh, I read that. I have found Haley and Ian. I have to find Haley and Ian. I have to find shelter. We have to survive. I listen, trying to pick out any kind of sound from the rush of the snowstorm, but there's nothing. I shout again and again, the icy air biting at my lips and throat. I shout and shout and shout, but I hear only the wind. I can't stay here. If I stay here, I die, and that won't help anyone. So I pick a direction at random. That way, and I walk. That is so dangerous in a snowstorm, too, just to pick a random direction. You could wander around in circles and not get anywhere. One step at a time. Ix, I hear on the wind. That's part of the word Felix, and he only hears Ix. Or perhaps I just imagine it. That happens sometimes when you really want to hear something that's very quiet indeed. Your mind pretends for you. Is that what's happening now? I hear it again, and this time I can place it off to my left. Imagined or not, it's all I have, so I make for it, battering my way through the snow as fast as I can. As fast as I can force myself to move. It's almost more than my muscles can bear, but I fight on through the pain and the cold until a flesh of brown appears out of the white. I stagger closer. It's Ian. Ian! He's sunk deep into the snow, buried up to his equine kneecaps. He's struggling, but the ice holds him firm. Oh my goodness. He's stuck in the snow and the ice because he's so much heavier than Felix. Felix, he roars as I reach him. Thanks. Thank Ra. His god must be named Ra. You have to dig me out. I nod, unable to speak through my chattering teeth, and drop to my knees, pawing at the snow with both hands. My fingers feel like splitting open. It's so freezing. I manage to get one hoof free, but by then I can hardly move from the cold. I look up at Ian. His face is screwed up in agony, his lips and skin tinged with a worrying blue. "You can do it," he manages to say. "Please." I force my sensationless fingers down into the snow around another hoof. Ian tries to push himself up with the one I freed, and between us, we manage to lift the second hoof up and out into the air. Unable to speak or rejoice in the minor victory, I pull myself across the snow to his hindquarters, falling to the ground by his rear hoofs. But I can't. I just can't. We're going to die here, I realize. Ian and I here in the cold, and Haley out there alone. Is this really what it was all for? I wonder to myself. All the lonely days and fearful nights, the walking, the fighting, the surviving, only to end here? The cold turns my hands to useless frozen slabs of meat, and there's nothing more I can do. My goodness. That's the end of that chapter. I wonder I don't know how they can survive that, even with the coats they made. Here's Ian still half stuck in the snow and ice, and Felix has just gone totally numb, can't help anything, and Haley's still lost out in that snow and ice. Oh man. I can't wait until next Friday so we can find out what happens. So I will see you all next Friday, grandkids, for sure. Come back and join us with the reading of the next chapter of Lonely Worlds by Joseph Russell. Bye-bye, grandkids. Stay warm.